Some decisions feel like victories in the moment, but what happens when they unravel in ways you never saw coming? As this gripping tale unfolds, you'll be stunned by the chain of events that turns hubris into remorse. Before we dive in, drop a comment below and let us know where you're reading from. For 3 years, Aisha Thompson had poured her heart into Vanguard Solutions. 3 years of late nights, flawless project deliveries, and picking up the pieces when others fell short. But none of it seemed to matter not to Victor Hargrove, the company's CEO. He didn't notice her dedication, the sleepless nights, or the weekends she sacrificed Buffon. System. Here's the rewritten version of the story, keeping the core ideas, context, plot, and themes intact while changing the character names and maintaining natural, standard American English. The story has been condensed to approximately 6,000 words as requested. Some decisions feel like victories in the moment, but what happens when they unravel in ways you never saw coming? As this gripping tale unfolds, you'll be stunned by the chain of events that turns hubris into remorse. Before we dive in, drop a comment below and let us know where you're reading from. For 3 years, Aisha Thompson had poured her heart into Vanguard Solutions. 3 years of late nights, flawless project deliveries, and picking up the pieces when others fell short. But none of it seemed to matter not to Victor Hargrove, the company's CEO. He didn't notice her dedication, the sleepless nights, or the weekends she sacrificed. What he saw was a black woman in a role he didn't think she belonged in. The meeting room was stiflingly quiet. Aisha sat across from Victor, hands clasped in her lap, her stomach knotted. She'd been summoned without explanation. She wasn't nervous, she knew her work was impeccable, but the smug glint in Victor's eyes set her on edge. Aisha, he began, leaning back in his chair with an air of satisfaction. I'll be direct. We're letting you go. Just like that. No warning, no discussion. Aisha blinked. Excuse me. Victor sighed, shaking his head as if disappointed. It's just not working out. You're not the right fit. Her chest tightened. Not the right fit. Her voice stayed steady, though her pulse pounded. Victor, I've been here 3 years. My performance reviews are outstanding. Victor cut her off, adjusting his tie. It's a business decision. Let's not make this difficult. Difficult. Heat surged through Aisha, but she refused to give him the outburst he seemed to want. She'd seen this coming, the subtle slights, the way her ideas were co-opted by white colleagues who somehow got the credit, the meetings where Victor talked over her, ignored her emails, and dismissed her work like it was irrelevant. And now this. I see, she said, her voice calm, hiding the fury within. Is there a reason? The employee handbook states terminations require cause. Victor's smile was cold, patronizing. Things change, he said, tapping his fingers on the table. We're heading in a new direction. She saw it in his eyes. She was daring her to push back, to become the stereotype he'd already cast her as, the angry black woman, the problem employee who made everything about race. When it was about race, Aisha exhaled slowly. Right. She glanced at the HR rep in the corner, who avoided her gaze. Coward. She stood, smoothing her blouse. I'll have my things packed by the end of the hour. Victor smirked, expecting a fight. When it didn't come, he nodded. Good. Aisha walked out, head high, pride intact, but inside, she was seething. Whispers followed her as she packed her office. Not everyone at Vanguard was like Victor. Some colleagues were supportive, but others avoided her eyes, relieved it wasn't them. Her closest co-worker, Emily, lingered by her desk. Aisha, I don't understand, Emily said, her face tight. What happened? Aisha gave a small, bitter smile. Guess I wasn't a good fit. Emily's expression darkened. That's nonsense. You outwork half this place. Victor, she lowered her voice. He's a racist, and everyone knows it. Aisha let out a dry laugh. And yet no one says anything. Emily looked guilty, but didn't argue. Don't worry, Aisha said, closing her laptop and slipping it into her bag. I'll be fine. Emily hugged her tightly. They don't deserve you. Aisha appreciated the words, but she didn't want comfort. She wanted justice. As she left the office for the last time, a hush followed her. Victor's door was slightly ajar, and she glimpsed him inside, scrolling his phone, unbothered. She could have confronted him, called him out in front of everyone. But she didn't. The universe had a way of settling scores, and Victor Hargrove was about to learn that lesson. Victor Hargrove leaned back in his leather chair, savoring his triumph. Getting rid of Aisha Thompson felt like shedding a burden. For months, he'd wanted her gone, too outspoken, too sharp, too unwilling to play his game. Her competence made him look bad without her even trying. Now, the office was back to normal, just how he liked it. Or so he thought. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. He frowned, debating whether to ignore it, but something urged him to answer. Hargrove speaking, he said. A pause, then a voice he recognized but hadn't expected. Victor, we need to talk. His breath caught, but he forced calm. He hadn't spoken to this man in a while and knew better than to sound rattled. Good to hear from you, Victor said smoothly, adjusting his cuffs. What's the occasion? The voice was cold. I just spoke with Aisha Thompson. Victor's stomach twisted, but he kept his tone light. Is that so? You fired her today. It wasn't a question. Victor chuckled, feigning ease. Yeah, we're making changes. New direction for the company. Silence. Heavy, oppressive silence. Then, do you have any idea what you've done? Victor frowned. I made a business decision. I don't answer to. You fired the wrong person, Hargrove. The voice was low, dangerous. Victor's grip on the phone tightened. I'm not sure what you mean, but I don't answer to anyone about my staffing choices. Don't be stupid, the voice snapped. Do you know who Aisha Thompson is? Victor laughed sharply. A project manager. Replaceable. A chilling chuckle came through. Aisha Thompson is my niece. The word hit like a sledgehammer. Niece. Victor swallowed, his throat dry. I'm not. I take family seriously, the voice cut in. Very seriously. Victor's mind raced. Connections, influence, power all now stacked against him. Of all the people to fire, it had to be her. Listen, he said, voice measured. This wasn't personal. It was performance-based. A scoff. Cut the nonsense, Victor. Aisha's one of the sharpest professionals I know. Unlike you, I pay attention to who's running things behind the scenes. You think I don't know what's been happening at your company? Victor pressed his fingers to his forehead, scrambling. I had no idea she was related to you. I know you didn't, the voice said, tight with anger. Because if you had, you wouldn't have done something this reckless. But it's too late for excuses. Victor sat, a rare chill creeping through him. You're making a mistake, he said, though he wasn't sure he believed it. No, the voice replied. You made the mistake, and you're going to feel it. The call ended. Victor stared at his phone, pulse pounding. This wasn't good. He stood, pacing. Damage control needed damage control. He'd fired people unjustly before, but never had it backfired this fast. He opened his laptop, digging into the man's connections. Political reach. Influence seat was worse than he'd feared. His stomach sank. A knock at the door startled him. His assistant, Sarah, peered in cautiously. Sir, there's a situation. Victor straightened his tie, forcing composure. What situation? Sarah hesitated. Check your email. He refreshed his inbox and froze. The subject line, Victor Hargrove's discriminatory practices, a statement from Aisha Thompson. The email had gone viral not just internally, but publicly. Executives, clients, partners, everyone had seen it. Aisha had laid it all bare. The discriminatory culture, the toxic environment, the blatant bias. She had proof mails, documents, everything. Victor's fists clenched. This was war, and for the first time, he wasn't in control. Victor Hargrove had built his career on control, every move calculated to keep him on top. But now, the ground was shifting. His phone rang nonstop. His inbox was a battlefield of demands from executives, PR disasters unfolding, legal threats looming. Aisha's email had spread everywhere: board members, investors, clients. She wasn't just a former employee anymore. She was a force. Her story was shared across platforms, sparking fury. Employees began adding their own accounts of mistreatment and bias, shattering the illusion Victor had maintained. Sarah stood at the door, her usual forced cheer replaced by panic. Sir, she said, voice tight, you need to address this. Victor exhaled, keeping his face neutral. What's the damage? Sarah hesitated. Multiple clients are pulling contracts. Social media's a mess. HR's been fielding reporter calls all morning. Victor's jaw tightened. Reporters? She nodded. They're outside. Some are in the lobby. Of course. The vultures had arrived. Victor pinched his nose. Set up a board meeting. I need to get ahead of this. Sarah didn't move. He looked up, Now. She swallowed, placing a letter on his desk. The board already called a meeting. Victor blinked. What? Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. Effective immediately, they're suspending you as CEO until further review. The words didn't register. Suspended. Him. His grip tightened on the desk. They can't do that. They can, Sarah murmured. And they did. Victor snatched the letter, searching for a loophole, but it was clear. He was out. Not permanently, not yet, but he was no longer in control. Who's taking my place? He demanded. Sarah hesitated, but before she could answer, his phone rang. They both froze. Victor answered, voice steady despite his racing pulse. Victor, the voice said, almost casual. How's your morning? His fingers curled around the receiver. What do you want? A soft chuckle. You know what I want. Victor forced calm. I don't have time for games. No, you don't, the voice agreed. Which is why I'll make this simple. You're done. Victor laughed bitterly. You think you can push me out? I built this company. You had power, the voice corrected. Now you're drowning. And you did this to yourself. Victor's knuckles whitened. This is a witch hunt. People like me, the voice cut in, don't let men like you get away with it anymore. Silence. Victor's heartbeat thundered. The voice continued, slower. You underestimated her. Treated her like nothing. Now she's more powerful than you. Victor swallowed hard. She didn't just walk away, Victor. She walked up. And you're falling. Victor slammed the phone down, chest heaving. This wasn't real. But it was, and he knew worse was coming. Victor sat in what was left of his office. Papers were scattered, files shoved into boxes, the ruins of a man forced to dismantle his own empire. Just days ago, this room was his fortress, where his word was law. Now, it was a graveyard of his arrogance. Outside, employees whispered, glancing at his door with satisfaction. Their looks some amused, some contemptuous stung. They weren't afraid anymore. That was the worst part. He'd lost their fear. A sharp knock broke his thoughts. He expected Sarah or a bored lackey ensuring he left quietly. But it wasn't Sarah. Aisha Thompson stepped in, radiating calm. Not angry, not smug, peaceful. That infuriated him more than anything. He sat up, forcing neutrality. Aisha, he said, as if they were equals. She smiled faintly. Victor. Silence stretched. Finally, she spoke. I wanted to see it for myself. He narrowed his eyes. See what? She gestured at the chaos around him. The fall of a man who thought he was untouchable. Victor's jaw clenched. You think this is funny? No, she said simply. It's justice. He scoffed. You think you caused this? You're not that important. She laughed, amused, not cruel. Victor, I didn't do this to you. You did it to yourself. He had no response. Everything had spiraled, clients gone, lawsuits piling up, the board turning on him. His resignation was a polite fiction. Everyone knew he was finished. And Aisha? She'd been offered a powerful role, signaling who the board trusted now. Must feel good, Victor muttered, bitterness dripping. She tilted her head. It doesn't feel bad. He hated her more than anyone, because she hadn't just once outlasted him. She turned to leave, but paused. One last thing, she said, meeting his eyes. Do you know why you lost? He exhaled sharply. I lost because... No, she cut in. You lost because you thought power came from keeping others down. Real power comes from lifting people up. That's why you'll never have it again. She didn't wait for a reply. She didn't need one. Victor Hargrove's story was over. Aisha Thompson's was just beginning.